A few weeks ago, Elon Musk bought enough Twitter stock to make him the #1 shareholder. A lot of people had a little hissy fit, something along the lines of like, hey, look, another billionaire with money to play and all this kind of stuff. Standard procedure. It lasted for a couple of days, all good. Well, until Elon decided to actually buy Twitter, he made a proposal with a final bid to buy it and make it public. And it was at that moment, by a mere proposal, without even knowing if it's going to be accepted or not, that all those defenders and protectors of a specific version of democracy started losing their minds. I don't care what side of the aisle you align yourself with, but it was like deja vu of like 2015 when Trump announced he was going to run for president. And just like back then, all the ones that allegedly were moving to Canada took on Twitter to tell you and give us instructions of how to delete our Twitter account. Now, don't get it twisted. They never went to Canada. They never intended to do so. And you rest assured they're not planning to delete their Twitter account. They're more interested in deleting your Twitter. Depending on who you ask, it was like a specific version of like Purge, Rapture, and Apocalypse all happening at the same time. Anyways, let's attempt to do what this person refers to as
the racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
Yeah, a deplorable analysis right after this intro. Welcome back, and before we get into it, please consider subscribing, liking, commenting, and most importantly, sharing this video. The first drama, naturally and as expected, came from Twitter employees that are getting paid six-figure salaries to actually scout the site and see who gets banned, canceled, or censored. They felt threatened that their so far unchallenged powers to deliver whatever sentence they feel necessary might actually get challenged. So they took to Twitter, among other sites, to announce how bad Elon is, what a threat to democracy he is, what a Nazi he is, and all that kind of stuff. Now let that sink for a minute. They went on Twitter to talk shit about the guy that's about to buy it and sign their paychecks. Now, I don't know if that's a good idea or not. Who the hell knows what's in the heads of these people? I don't have a degree in business, but in situations like that, the most common thing for an owner or a boss to do is to actually approach the employee and be like, hey, listen, if you feel a certain way about the company you work for and the person that owns it, maybe you shouldn't be here. It is not good for me. It is not good for you. It's not good for the company. And it's not good for our customers. So basically, pack up your shit and be out. Now, who's about to drive their Teslas out of Twitter's parking lot for the last time? It remains to be seen. But rest assured, the narrative that some networks are going to go with is going to be something along the lines of like, people left the jobs after all these years and effort they put into working on Twitter, and they gave up six-figure salaries to show the world, they made a sacrifice to show the world of how bad this transaction would be and how dangerous it's going to be to a democracy and how bad we're going to misinform. And a certain network that actually has reliable sources is already running with it. There they go.
How will this change our lives? And when he says open it up to free speech, does that allow more misinformation on the platform?
And wait until the Ministry of Truth is in place and running. That's going to be something.
That's an example of a broader question for Twitter, which is, if you get invited to something where there are no rules, where there is total freedom for everybody, do you actually want to go to that party? Or are you going to decide to stay home?
Next came the board of directors, which apparently some of them don't even have a Twitter account. And some of them never even sent out a single tweet. The only thing they know about the company they own is the paycheck they get from it. Now in the streets, we call that gravy. But I digress. In their infinite wisdom, they decided to introduce what they call a poison pill, dilute the value of the company and possibly deter Elon from buying it. Now, the money that they would lose and the money the shareholders would lose, that was nothing because, sharing is caring. So if we're going to lose, you lose, so fuck it. Anyway, That was short-lived. A deal was reached, and as if that was not enough to get heads exploding, Elon went ahead and tweeted this: "Free speech is the bedrock of a functioning democracy, and Twitter is the digital town square where matters vital to the future of humanity are debated," said Mr. Musk. "I also want to make Twitter better than ever by enhancing the product with new features, making the algorithms open source to increase trust, defeating the spam bots, and authenticating all humans. Twitter has tremendous potential. I look forward to working with the company and the community of users to unlock it. Free speech, functioning democracy, future of humanity, transparency. My God, what a distraction that will be. But wait, aren't those the principles that a bunch of news media sites and social media sites stand for? Well, yes, but their version of what constitutes democracy and free speech might differ from yours. And when it comes down to transparency, they're more afraid that all this shit that we've been doing all these years might actually get exposed right now. And of the fact of them being so proactive is proof of just that. How are they being proactive? All of a sudden, Democrats are losing followers, Republicans are getting followers by the thousands, content's reappearing. They are making sure that they're covering their tracks, or actually, I should say, they're covering the means and methods that they use to defend democracy and free speech. Anyways, before Elon went on full troll, that he usually does it anyway, he felt the need to clarify with this: by free speech, I simply mean that which matches the law. I am against censorship that goes far beyond the law. If people want less free speech, they will ask government to pass laws to that effect. Therefore, going beyond the law is contrary to the will of the people. Against censorship, as per law, will of the people? What kind of sorcery is this? But, he went ahead and he elaborated a little bit more, tried to clarify a little bit more with this. For Twitter to deserve public trust, it must be politically neutral, which effectively means upsetting the far right and the far left equally. Public trust, politically correct, equality, all of that somehow sounded like tyranny, as it should and as it has to the tyrants. So he tried again with this: I hope that even my worst critics remain on Twitter, because that is what free speech means. But at that point, it had become apparent, at least to most of us, that I guess interests were not aligned. Of course, no shit show would be complete without the usual sheep flocking to Twitter and other social media sites to do what they do best: defend democracy, protect free speech, but most important of all, protect us from misinformation. We had the freedom of speech defenders exercising their free speech to tell us how their free speech is in danger from the possibility of being stripped of the ability to curb our free speech. Yeah, figure that one out. We had the philanthropists expressing their expertise of how to spend somebody else's money, saying that with the $44 billion that Elon spent to buy Twitter, he could have ended world hunger. Now, the people that collected the $44 billion and could actually do the exact same thing, they were left out of that option. Why? Who knows? We had the tax the rich gang that are more interested in how much somebody else is paying taxes than they are. We had the science observers scared shitless that now the science deniers might be able to utter a thought without the consequence of cancellation and banning. We had the proponents of inclusivity afraid they might lose the ability to exclude and label anyone that disagreed with them with a specific phobia illness. We had the tolerant crew doing their usual not tolerating anyone that disagrees with any narrative that they have been spoon-fed for years. And like clockwork, we had the enders of racism by means of division and segregation, capitalizing on the continued success of what I refer to as everything is racist hustle. And in the endless pursuit to manifest this shit into existence, they took onto Twitter to set the record straight. By this, before I read this tweet, take a look at the "I'm still here, motherfuckers." Well, this time, so are we. But anyway, at its root, Elon Musk wanting to purchase Twitter is not about left versus right. It's about white power. The man was raised in apartheid by a white nationalist. He's upset that Twitter won't allow white nationalists to target and harass people. That is his definition of free speech. Interesting. Somehow, that is how this tool interpreted this tweet. All about white power. Meanwhile, he's 15 years on Twitter spewing the same hate. And for 15 years, the whiteness of the co-founders and shareholders of Twitter didn't seem to bother him because there they are. Maybe he was giving them a break. Maybe he was being merciful. And now he just had enough. Anyway, let's see some more of his wisdom. Elon Musk has openly called himself a free speech absolutist and said that he wants to create a space where anything can be said about anyone. That is why white nationalists are giddy today, here on Twitter and other platforms that I track daily. It is dangerous. Now, I want to emphasize on the part that he says he wants to create a space that anything could be said about anyone. Power has no color, and his real concern is that now, for the first time in a long time, the masses may have the same power to do as he has done for years, suffering the same consequences if need be, without him being the judge, the juror, and the executioner. And yeah, that is dangerous to his narrative because without it, people like that will start questioning their purpose in life. But don't worry, I know this guy on Twitter that actually addressed that particular thing he said about a public space that anything could be said about anyone. With this, you would have a slight chance of a valid argument if you were excluded from anything and anyone. Until that happens, the sole purpose of your post reeks of racism. Hashtag unity by division has served you well. I think I know this guy. Anyways, unity by division and segregation seems to be the go-to for all those advocating to end it. It's like create a demand and then he will be the savior, ready to provide the supply. He just never does. All of that and much more taking place on a daily basis, non-stop. And keep in mind that Elon has not entirely taken over Twitter yet. I mean, there is an agreement, but he's not controlling anything of Twitter yet. All of this crap is like a pre-gamer for the shit show that's about to come. Oh, and believe me, it's coming. Now look, I have no idea what the hell Elon Musk is going to do. I don't think he's 100% sure of what he's going to do. Plans, are there, but execution is the hard part, okay? Time will go by, he's going to reevaluate the situation, he might change some things, nobody knows. Anything we'll say about what he's going to do, even though it's based on what he said he's going to do, is nothing but an assumption at this point. But here what was proven to be a fact and not an assumption. Everyone that complained about censorship, shadow banning, cancellation, was right. Limitations on the reach from anyone that disagree with a specific narrative did take place, not only on Twitter, but also in other media sites and within our government, that now felt the necessity to invent this ministry of truth. The manipulation that has taken place for so long will ensure that many will ignore the mere fact that the government that lied to them is now inventing a ministry of truth. And since truth is in the name of that organization, it must be true and you must believe it. Now, what you see, what you hear, what you experience, this is all misinformation. Trust me when I tell you, this misinformation thing will be the next crisis, like the next pandemic. I called on it a couple of weeks ago before this whole thing happened with Twitter and actually made a couple of videos about it. I'm going to leave a link in the description or something. I mean, listen, they're a little bit long and they're not my greatest videos. They were actually the first videos I ever made. But the points that I make there, we see them today, and we're going to be seeing them for some time to come. So anyway, maybe I'm going to make a part 3 on those. I don't know. But the way things are going, I'm on part 2 on those videos, and I can make up to like part 10. Who knows? Anyways, thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting. You know, the algorithm is vicious. It's very selective and does not exist just on Twitter. So with that said, again, thank you for watching. God bless.